Misuma Yushin is a true introvert. He has no friends in class. His hobbies are playing games on his phone and practicing sports. Because his classmates rarely talk to him. When they made plans, they never thought of him. However, Misuma Yushin was not bullied. It's simply that he has nothing in common with them. After packing his books into his bag, he left the classroom. Meanwhile, his classmates were discussing going to karaoke and invited Nanami to join them. However, Nanami's friends declined, saying they were busy. This disappointed the group of friends because 3 of them were unable to participate. As he walked, Misuma Yushin wondered how many in-game tasks he could complete while they were singing karaoke. On his way out of school, Misuma Yushin suddenly realized he had left his pencil case in the classroom. He turned back to get it. When he walked in, he saw Nanami. And the group of friends are playing a card game. Nanami just lost, and the punishment is that she has to confess her feelings to a boy tomorrow and date him for a month. This news caused Nanami blushed with embarrassment. She started arguing with her friends. Standing at a distance, Yushin was about to quickly grab his pencil case and leave, if he hadn't accidentally overheard this interesting conversation. Nanami sat on the table, resolutely refusing to confess her feelings to anyone, as a way of protesting her punishment. Yushin unconsciously glanced at her bare feet. But he quickly shook his head, pulled himself back to reality, and walked towards the door. A friend of Nanami teased her. This suggests that Nanami doesn't want to accept the game's punishment. But she explained that it wasn't because she was afraid, but because she believed that confessing one's feelings was a serious matter and should only be reserved for someone you truly love. A friend continued to tease, pointing out that despite holding such a view, Nanami has never had a boyfriend. She received the most romantic advances in the class, but rejected them all. Nanami explained, most of the guys who confessed their feelings to her were only interested in her appearance, not in her as a person. Another friend hugged Nanami and said that the problem was she wasn't used to communicating with boys. From a distance, Yushin found it hard to believe when he learned that Nanami has never had a boyfriend. Nanami's friends were worried about her, fearing that if she continued like this, she would attract unwanted attention from strange boys. They suggested she get used to interacting with boys and even offered to help her practice dating. They believed that even if they broke up later, the guys would be happy to have had the chance to be with her. Yushin continued to eavesdrop quietly, thinking that the boys might be thrilled if they didn't know Nanami's true feelings. But if they did know, they would surely be deeply hurt. He silently pondered about Barato Nanami, a popular girl admired by many, but who had rejected countless suitors. Anyone lucky enough to date her would undoubtedly attract envious glances from everyone around them. Just thinking about it sent shivers down Yushin's spine. He reached out to grab the doorknob, hoping his friends would continue their conversation somewhere he wouldn't hear. But at that moment, Nanami's friends continued to put pressure on her. There was no other option. Nanami reluctantly agreed with their plan. They decided that she had to confess her feelings to Yushin, the quietest person in the class. Nanami nodded, but neither of them knew that the very person they were talking about was standing outside the door, having heard everything they said. Nanami then asked her friend about the best way to confess her feelings. In a mischievous way, they suggested a classic scene from a shoujo manga. That evening, Yushin sat at home feeling confused and unsure of what to do. He decided to log into the game to discuss things with his online group of friends. Baron, a fellow player. Baron listened as Yushin recounted the entire situation. He advised him to accept the confession and go on a date with Nanami. According to Baron, this not only helps Nanami get acquainted with boys, but also helps Yushin learn how to interact with girls. Just then, Peach Sans, another friend in the game, appeared and objected to Baron's idea. She pouted, sulked, and urged Canyon San, a character in Yushin's game, to reject the confession. Baron remained calm, trying to soothe Peach. He explained that if Yushin rejected a popular girl like Nanami, he might get into trouble, because that could cause you to receive negative reactions from everyone at school. Conversely, if you are the one being dumped, there will be no problem. Baron went on to suggest that Yushin should see this as an opportunity to make Nanami really like him. Since this is just a punishment game, you can break up with her after she develops feelings for you. Canyon realized that Baron seemed to have thought further ahead than he did. Baron didn't hesitate to suggest that you let him know the result later. Yushin considered this advice and decided to accept the confession. The next morning, Nanami approached Yushin and suggested they talk after school. He agreed immediately without a moment's hesitation. Then she returned to her friend's table. Despite being a loner, Yushin knew a great deal about Nanami. He noticed her fashion style was a bold gal type. Nanami often left the top button of her shirt unbuttoned, unintentionally showing off her alluring figure. She was also known for her unconditional acceptance of those around her. This led many guys to mistakenly believe she liked them, and the number of people infatuated with her increased every day. Yushin feared that if an introvert like him rejected her confession, many people would turn against him. He felt completely powerless, as he had no standing or voice in the class, and almost no one paid attention to him. Yushin felt confused, finding it hard to believe that a girl like Nanami would be so inexperienced with boys. At the same time, he realized that she was very attractive, and her style easily captivated him. He quietly pondered, realizing that he too could not escape her charm. Final. The lesson has ended, and they both met behind the school building. Nanami asked, "Do you know what she's about to say?" Yushin replied jokingly that he had absolutely no idea. He even joked that if she intended to take his money, he wouldn't have a penny left. Nanami was surprised and loudly retorted that she had no such intention. After a breath, one deep, Nanami blushed and began to speak. Yushin also began to blush, his eyes secretly glancing down at her legs. But immediately, he remembered Baron's advice: look up when faced with a confession. When he looked up, he was surprised to see a girl upstairs preparing to pour water out the window. At that moment, Nanami officially confessed her feelings. But before he could respond, instinct made him reach out and pull her out of danger. They both lost their balance and fell to the ground together. While they were both trying to handle the situation, Nanami screamed. But then she realized Yushin had saved her from getting wet. Unfortunately, however, a bucket of water fell from above and hit Yushin on the head, causing him to faint. When he woke up, he found himself. He is currently in the medical room, feeling confused. I don't understand why. I'm here again. He recalled the scene of panic, when they saw the cleaning crew pouring water from above, and then I felt a heavy object fall on me. Nanami, with a radiant expression, smiled when she saw Yushin had woken up. She thanked him for saving her, and Yushin tried to sit up, but she gently stopped him, advising him to lie back down. Concerned, she asked if he was hurt. Yushin reassured her. Say that I'm fine, and she immediately felt relieved upon hearing those words. When Yushin asked about her condition, she replied that she was fine, all thanks to his help, which made her feel comforted and encouraged. Yushin sat up in bed, but Nanami shyly advised him to lie down. Suddenly, Yushin realized he wasn't wearing a shirt. He blushed and quickly apologized. Pull the blanket over yourself. While they chatted softly, the school nurse entered the room with a new uniform for Yushin. After changing clothes, the teacher announced that Nanami has been taking care of him since he was admitted to the hospital. She smiled and said, It's great to be young. Leaving the infirmary, Yushin thanked her again. But Nanami responded with thanks for protecting her, which made him blush even more. Then she asked him for his answer to her earlier confession. Yushin suddenly remembered the confession, but realized he had been too hasty in pulling her in. He looked straight into her eyes. And accept her feelings. I call her by her official name, Barato-san. Nanami's face lit up with joy when she heard him accept. But then she realized something. Her face turned to one of confusion, and she pouted. Yushin was surprised. Then she shyly said her real name, feeling embarrassed and confused. Yushin asked her what she meant, and Nanami explained that now that they were a couple, He had to call her by her name. And she will call him Yushin, although I felt uncomfortable when calling a daughter by her name. Yushin decided to call her Nanami. They shook hands, promising to begin a new relationship. Nanami's smile was as radiant as a field of blooming flowers. Yushin wondered if he was misunderstanding her happiness, but he reminded himself that this was just punishment in her game. The teacher watched them, smiling as she saw them happily holding hands, officially becoming a couple. She admired their youth and congratulated them. But when they saw the teacher, both of them suddenly became flustered. They let go of each other's hands as if they had just touched something hot. The teacher advised them to maintain a relationship that was appropriate for their age, and remind them that if they decide to go further, they should remember to use protection. This remark made Nanami blush, and Yushin quickly interrupted, asking the teacher what she meant by that remark. Yushin wondered if the teacher really should be worried about these things when they were still high school students. The teacher replied that precisely because they were high school students, they needed proper education about relationships. After teasing them a little more, she advised them that if they felt all right, they could leave. On the way home, Yushin thought that their relationship probably wouldn't progress too quickly, since they only had a month to date. The atmosphere between them became heavy, and when their eyes met, they both quickly looked away. Too shy to maintain eye contact, Yushin felt unsure about what to do when he was alone with the girl, and he regretted not asking Baron for advice. Determined to break the silence, Yushin began to talk about the previous incident. But Nanami remained silent. This made him wonder if she felt as anxious as he did. Suddenly, Nanami asked for his contact information and inquired about the apps he used. Yushin admitted that he didn't use any apps, but his phone had several pre-installed. When Nanami asked why Yushin didn't use the app, he explained that he followed official game accounts to get news updates and receive free gifts. Hearing this, Nanami giggled, making Yushin wonder if he had said something wrong. However, all misunderstandings were cleared up when he realized she was happy that he was the first person she had saved her number for. This thought made him blush even more. Nanami asked if he knew how to add a new contact, and although he had never done it before, Yushin still successfully added her information to the contact list and sent a greeting message. He thought she might not want to exchange contact information since their declaration of love was just a game. But her joy throughout the process surprised him. Finally, they arrived at the train station and said goodbye to each other. Because they live on both sides, opposite, of the city. When they parted, Yushin noticed a hint of sadness in her smile. He wondered if it was because his confession was just a test. When he got home, he went online to chat with Baron and Peach about what just happened. Baron smiled and complimented Yushin. They were clearly very pleased with this unexpected turn of events. Baron teased Yushin, asking if he was trying to become a superhero. But Yushin quickly denied it, explaining that going home together was awkward and he didn't know what to say. He realized he should ask Baron for help, although he felt hesitant about relying on Baron. Yushin still heeded the advice that instead of just thinking about himself, he should ask Nanami about her interests. Yushin decided to take action tomorrow. However, Peach quickly disagreed, saying that it was unlikely things would go smoothly, and advised Yushin to break up with Nanami before he gets hurt. Baron intervened, gently advising Peach to calm down, then came up with a new plan. He suggested Yushin set goals for the week, with the goal of holding Nanami's hand this weekend. Yushin was worried because there were only 2 days left in the week. Baron encouraged him to start by holding her hand on the way home from school. While they were chatting through the game, Yushin suddenly received a message from Nanami. Yushin was surprised when I saw the message from Nanami on the first day of our relationship. Excited, he opened the message and saw that she was inviting him to walk to school together tomorrow. She asked if he could meet her at the station at 7:30. Since this was the first time she had texted him, Yushin quickly read and felt the need to respond. He typed a message saying he'd be happy to go for a walk with her. After sending it, he wondered what she'd think of his reply. Nanami read his message and replied that she was really looking forward to it. Yushin shared the good news with Baron, who advised him to arrive at the meeting point 30 minutes early. He emphasized that arriving early is always better than arriving late. Determined, Yushin decided to prepare well for tomorrow and go to bed early. He turned off the computer. Looking at Nanami's message, "I was thinking about walking to school with my girlfriend." The story shifts to Nanami's point of view. Nanami thought that as long as the guy was gentle, her confession could be for anyone. Thinking about this, she felt like she was just a random girl confessing her feelings on the street. As Misumai Yushin's classmate, she never accepted any of the confessions of love because the boys who confessed their feelings to her only paid attention to her figure. That's why she rejected them all. Glued to their phones, oblivious to everything around them. She noticed his indifference towards everyone and secretly wished that the other boys were the same. Her friends, worried about her anxiety when interacting with boys, suggested a game to help her get to know them while staying safe. Therefore, she had to confess her feelings to him and date him for a month. Ultimately, she decided to comply, but she realized that this decision actually made her feel inferior. Nevertheless, she still felt very anxious. However, it wasn't just her own anxiety, but also the surprise she felt when she saw him look into her eyes. Instead of focusing solely on her body, she realized he was different from the other guys who had confessed their feelings to her. During the confession, he suddenly pulled her, causing her to fall to the ground. She misunderstood his actions, thinking he might be just like everyone else. But her misunderstanding quickly vanished when she realized he only wanted to save her. When he was pushed over by the bucket of water and fainted, she immediately ran off to find it. Help! Upon learning that he was all right after receiving care, she felt incredibly relieved. When he woke up, she thanked him and asked about his response to her declaration of love. Yushin felt even more embarrassed when he looked into her eyes, instead of her body. He happily accepted the proposal. Although it started as just a game, she was surprised to feel genuinely happy when he agreed. However, that joy also brought a wave of guilt. When we go home together, she tried to find the words to say, but the growing guilt made her silent and anxious. She didn't know if her actions had hurt him. Trying to break the silence, she decided to ask for his contact information. When they finally exchanged information, they only managed to say a few words, but even those brief moments filled her with joy, as if she were floating on a cloud. When she got home, she was still bewildered, filled with both joy and guilt. Back in her room, she lay on the bed, her face flushed, thinking about Yushin, finding him really cool. Not long after, she received a message from her friends, Hatsumi and Ayumi. She excitedly told them that Yushin was the first guy she added to her contacts, and he only sent her a greeting. She looked at his file and wondered if he liked girls with braided hair. Inspiration surged. She decided to try braiding her hair. Suddenly, she texted him about walking to school together. His answer delighted her, but she wasn't sure if her feelings were genuine or just a fleeting moment. A mixed feeling of confusion, guilt, and happiness was swirling within her. Yushin arrived at the station an hour early. Want to make sure that we didn't keep Nanami waiting long. But when he arrived, he was surprised to find she was already there. He checked the time, worried about being late, but realized she had arrived early. He rushed over, apologizing repeatedly, and asked if he had kept her waiting, and if she had misremembered the time. Nanami reassured him that he had arrived earlier than she expected, and explained that she had a small errand to run beforehand. Then she cheerfully greeted him, saying, "Good morning." Yushin blushed at her cheerful greeting. But he remembered that her declaration of love was only part of the test, so he tried not to forget that. He greeted her back, and they started walking to school. On the way, Nanami mentioned how early he arrived. He admitted that this was the first time he'd met a girl, so he was very nervous. She said that was right, and added that thanks to him arriving early, they were able to meet sooner, which made her very happy. Suddenly, she asked him. He held her hand as they walked. While walking, Yushin noticed even her braided hairstyle and wondered where they had seen this hairstyle before. Then he remembered Baron's advice to praise all the changes. He gathered his courage and said that the braided hairstyle suited her very well. Hearing that, Nanami smiled brightly. She explained that she wanted this hairstyle because of him. Yushin was confused. Ask her what she means. Nanami pointed to his profile picture and explained that her hairstyle resembled the character in his profile picture. He felt confused, but she quickly reassured him. He said that there was nothing strange about it. She also shared that she enjoys watching anime and movies, which helps Yushin calm down. Yushin and Nanami continue the joke. Seeing his worried expression, Nanami shyly asked if he wanted to hold her hand. Yushin was startled and asked if she really wanted to. Then he started wiping his hands, saying it wasn't that he didn't want to, and then he took her hand. Nanami giggled when she realized he was shaking her hand instead of holding it. They walked hand in hand, attracting the attention of the other students. With this, Yushin achieved the goal Baron had given him on the very first day. People started whispering about them. When entering school, Nanami leaned forward and smiled slightly, telling Yushin that the students were talking about them. He replied that they must feel sorry for her having to be with someone like him. Hearing that, she stopped and turned around, saying that wasn't the reaction she wanted. She insisted he stop calling himself that kind of person and reminded him he was her boyfriend, adding that he looked really cool yesterday. Yushin's heart raced when he heard her say that. He wondered if she had to go that far as a punishment. She said they should have an equal relationship. Yushin thought she wanted the relationship to look like an ideal one, and he felt a little anxious. He apologized and agreed to her request. But she seemed unhappy, so she apologized as well. He wondered what kind of expression she would have if he told her he knew about the punishment game. He swallowed, then playfully poked his finger into her mouth, causing both of them. They all blushed. She started to stammer, and Yushin quickly apologized. He explained that she insisted they have an equal relationship, which is why he did it. He asked her if she felt uncomfortable. She admitted no, but she was surprised. Finally, they arrived at class. They were still holding hands. Ayumi and Hatsumi greeted them. And congratulations to Nanami. The other girls in the class started asking her why she was with Yushin. She proudly announced that she had confessed her feelings to him yesterday, much to everyone's surprise. When their classmates gathered around them, Ayumi and Hatsumi helped disperse the crowd. Thanks to their help, Yushin called out their names and thanked them. Hearing this, Nanami was truly angry because he had just met her friend and was already calling her by her last name, while initially he had addressed her by her last name. Hatsumi explained that Yushin may not have known their last names, and he readily agreed. Then they called out Hatsumi and Ayumi's full names. They introduced themselves by their full names. Yushin apologized for calling them by their names, but they told him he didn't need to apologize. While everyone was looking at them, Nanami intervened and invited Yushin to have lunch with them. She revealed that she had prepared a lunchbox for 2 people. Yushin happily agreed to have lunch with her. He wondered if he had underestimated how serious she was about the penalty game, or at least that's how he felt. They went out onto the terrace, where Nanami showed him the lunchbox. He asked if she woke up early for this reason, and she confirmed that she did. He thanked her for all the hard work, which made her very happy. Even though I could feel the gaze of the people around us, he decided, eat all the rice. He really liked the rice dish and complimented her, saying that although the onigiri were small, they were very cute and delicious. She revealed that she made them herself, and they are small because her hands are quite small. He quickly finished his rice and complimented her cooking, saying it was really great. While Nanami felt comfortable around Yushin, he noticed envious glances from the other boys. Just as she was about to eat her meal, his stomach suddenly rumbled loudly. He realized he was still hungry. She apologized, saying that her lunchbox was definitely not big enough for a boy. I decided to share some courage from my lunchbox. She gave it to him. He immediately, "Open your mouth to eat. Thank you for your generosity." of her. Because he didn't eat enough for lunch, she invited him to buy another lunchbox after school. That suggestion was like a date after school. This caused a stir among the envious students around them. After school, they went out together to buy a boxed lunch. His hands were clenched and he looked a little sad. She noticed and asked him about it. He replied that there was nothing at all. She then asked if he wouldn't want to hold the hand of someone like her. He held her hand with both, reassuring her that she had misunderstood. He smiled warmly, affirming that he was happy to hold her hand. She asked again if he was trying to force himself, but he quickly reassured her that he didn't need to. Her face lit up with happiness, and she said she was very happy. When they arrived at the market, she chose a lunchbox for him. He commented that it was too cute for him. She smiled warmly and said they looked like a newlywed couple. He blushed and shyly agreed. She teased him, saying he didn't need to force himself to agree. He replied that he was genuinely happy, and it didn't require any effort at all. Hearing that, she blushed so intensely that she started clapping her hands at him. Then she chose a lunchbox for him. After getting his consent, she ran off saying she would buy it for him. But he stopped her and said that he would use it, so he was the one who should pay. She refused, saying she wanted to do something for the person she loved. However, she also had no reason to let him pay. Nevertheless, he remained resolute, pay for the lunchbox, and finally she agreed. He bought the lunchbox and eventually gave it to her. She brightened up, saying it felt like he was giving her a gift. His face flushed at her reaction. He regretted not mentioning it. He knows about the penalty game. After buying their lunchboxes, they started to leave the store. As they strolled along, she asked him what he'd like in his lunchbox tomorrow. He said he liked hamburgers. She then asked if he ate chili peppers. He explained that he doesn't like foods with strong smells. She agreed, but reminded him that he had previously said he would eat anything if she cooked it. He realized his previous reaction was positive and agreed with the statement. Her answer, it made him truly happy. Afterward, he went online and shared everything that had happened with Baron and Peach. He also told Baron that Nanami planned to call him tonight. But he missed the opportunity to say that he knew about the penalty game. Baron was surprised by this turn of events, and in his opinion, Nanami no longer cared about penalty games. Yushin never expected they would be going to school together and holding hands for the same week. What surprised him most was that she had bought him a homemade lunch. Yushin worried whether they were being exploited for the sake of the punishment game, as the original purpose of the game was for her to get used to being close to her son. Baron explained that if a relationship begins with a game of punishment and confession, it will feel very much like work. For example, she might get angry and tell him not to talk to her at school, saying that she was forced into this relationship. Baron assured Yushin that she would say things that might worry him. Yushin disagreed, believing she wouldn't. Baron admitted this and told Yushin that he had fallen deeply in love with her, making it impossible for him to change the situation. Suddenly, Peach's comment interrupted the conversation, and she told Yushin that she thought Nanami was just toying with him. She insisted that he should break up with her. Baron tried to ignore Peach's point of view, but she insisted. Ignoring Peach's words, Baron asked Yushin if he had thanked Nanami for the meal. Yushin admitted that he had said thank you, but he wanted to pay for the ingredients, which she refused. He expressed his desire to do something in return. Baron suggested that he give her some candy, as reciprocating kindness with another gift would be a nicer gesture. Yushin agreed to give Nanami some candy and decided to log out. However, Baron asked him to wait a little while, as he had completed his task and now had a new objective for Yushin. Baron asked Yushin to ask Nanami out on Saturday. Hearing this, Yushin felt overwhelmed and thought it was impossible. Baron encouraged him, suggesting he could invite her to the movies as a way to thank her for the bento. Yushin agreed, feeling guilty if he didn't do something for her. He also realized he felt distant from her, as if he wasn't worthy of her. Determined to maintain an equal relationship, Yushin decides to invite Nanami out as part of a punishment game. Baron advised him to ask Nanami about her preferences so he could choose a suitable movie. Yushin decided to ask her about the things she liked when they talked on the phone. Finally, Nanami called and apologized for calling late, explaining that she had gotten lost in a conversation with friends. Yushin reassured her that it was okay, as he was also busy playing games. Nanami anxiously asked if she had said anything strange, because this was the first time she had gone out with a boy. Yushin replied that he also felt nervous, as it was the first time he had done so many things together. He admitted he was scared, but also felt happy with everything they did together. For him, it felt like Nanami was always by his side. Even when it's just over the phone, Nanami shared that she feels like she's going in circles without getting anywhere. But Yushin always remained calm. Yushin reassured Nanami that she hadn't done anything wrong and that he was thinking about how to thank her. He invited her to see a movie this weekend. However, Nanami regretfully declined because she had promised to go to the movies with her friends on Sunday. The rejection left him feeling defeated, realizing he had chosen the worst possible time to ask her out. Feeling like everything might become meaningless if I don't try one more time, Yushin decided to ask her about Sunday. He asked if she was free, and she asked if the invitation was a way of thanking her for the bento. He confirmed, and she replied that she would make a more special bento next time. This means she agrees to go on a date. Yushin was thrilled by her answer and said he was looking forward to learning more about her interests tomorrow, which would surely be a wonderful date. Nanami was touched and happy by Yushin's words. During the call, her heart was racing. It was as if he were right beside her. Before saying goodbye, he wished her good night. It made her so happy that she rolled around in bed. She told herself she had to stop. Avoid being too cute tomorrow, she recalled. When Yushin complimented his hairstyle and blushed when he called her cute. She felt even more embarrassed when she thought back to lunchtime. When she fed him from her bento box, it felt like an indirect kiss. This thought made her even more embarrassed. She imagined the future and wondered if they might kiss soon. The more she thought about it, the redder her face became. Suddenly noticing the time, she decided to start making bento. She put on her apron and happily thought of Yushin as she prepared the meal. While making bento, she daydreamed about future outings, like going to the beach with him. But then she remembered the punishment game. A feeling of dread washed over her at the thought of Yushin discovering that her feelings were just part of the game, and she started to cry. She felt confused and afraid of his reaction. The next day, Yushin arrived at the station early, eager to walk to school with Nanami. He arrived 30 minutes early, hoping to surprise her. However, he was surprised to see that she had arrived even earlier. With a light touch on his cheek, she greeted him and jokingly said that she was sorry she had to wait for him. He was surprised and returned her greeting, surprised that she had arrived so early. She smiled brightly, reminding him that he had surprised her yesterday. And now, they were even. Her playful spirit shone through when she shared the reason for arriving early. She wanted to hear him say, "We're late." During their conversation, Yushin noticed her new hairstyle. It seemed she had taken the time to do something special just to make him happy. This thought gave him the courage to compliment her, saying that her hairstyle looked very cute. Despite his initial shyness, he finally managed to say those words. Her face lit up with joy, and she thanked him, and gave him the right to hold her hand, as well as share the bento box she made herself. His heart was filled with happiness when he heard her say that, and he gladly accepted. They walked to school together, smiles shining on their faces. Meanwhile, at school, a group of girls were discussing the upcoming basketball captaincy. They praised a senior for his impressive performance in the previous game, and one girl offered him her water bottle. He took the bottle of water with a nod and a thank you. However, while they were talking, he caught a glimpse of Nanami holding hands with Yushin. Anger flared up, causing him to grip the water bottle tightly, to the point that it cracked. A worried girl asked if something was wrong, but he just brushed it off and said everything was fine. While changing his shoes, Yushin turned to Nanami and apologized for yesterday. He explained that he had called her without notice. She was surprised and asked him for more explanation. He said that she wasn't familiar with boys yet. But because he was so excited about the upcoming date, his shyness disappeared. This caused him to call her impulsively. Nanami comforted him, saying it was all right. She admitted she still wasn't used to her son, and they made her a little hesitant. But she also said that his call had made her genuinely happy. Those words made his heart race. As they walked together, he wondered if her cheerful mood was due to his call. A feeling of relief spread through him, knowing that contacting her had brought her joy. Suddenly, she remembered that she had never mentioned not being familiar with boys. This realization startled Yushin, as he had heard her say it the day before. She felt she needed to find a way out of this awkward situation. He quickly remarked that yesterday she had said this was her first time going out with a boy, and he thought it might be because she wasn't used to boys, especially cute ones like Nanami. When he called her cute, she blushed and hesitated, feeling embarrassed. Noticing her awkwardness, Yushin suggested they go upstairs, and she agreed, feeling more comfortable. As they climbed the stairs, Yushin's mind was in turmoil. He wondered why someone as charming as her wasn't familiar with boys. He glanced at Nanami, thinking that a cute girl like her must attract a lot of fans. He wondered if she'd had a bad experience with her son in the past, or perhaps her friends were just worried, and introduced him as a training partner to help her. Noticing that he was deep in thought, Nanami apologized and reassured him that it was nothing serious. She admitted that she always had difficulty connecting with her son, although she couldn't remember exactly why. However, she insisted that it was nothing to worry about. She explained that if she couldn't remember something, perhaps it wasn't a big deal. Yushin thought about the situation and seriously asked again. She nodded, recalling that most of the boys in high school treated her badly, causing her to inadvertently develop some issues when dealing with them. She admitted that she started feeling uncomfortable around her son when she was in 6th grade. Yushin thought she must have been just as cute back then, and that's why she had so many fans. She didn't remember it clearly. He asked how she could possibly guess what he was thinking. She responded naturally, pointing out that even though it had only been 3 days, she was already his girlfriend. He blushed, not knowing how to react. He wondered if he should tell her that he had been there that day and knew their relationship was just a punishment game, but he absolutely couldn't let her know. He couldn't help but notice Nanami's charm, something that could make any young man's heart flutter. She immediately noticed his gaze and called him a pervert. He also awkwardly defended himself. He became flustered, repeatedly apologizing and insisting that he had no ill intentions. She said, "I really hate it when my son stares at me." Yushin braced himself to endure her wrath, but she finished her sentence. But if it's Yushin, then it's fine. She decided to forgive him this time. Yushin's heart pounded as he heard her words. It was like an arrow piercing his heart. No further questions were raised that day, and he spent the rest of the day in a happy mood. During lunchtime, Nanami brought him 2 hamburgers and asked if the portion, "Is that enough?" "That's more than enough," he replied confidently. She said that if he was still hungry, "Just open your mouth and she'll gladly feed you." The remark made both of them blush. At that moment, the basketball team captain approached Nanami and asked about the boy next to her. She responded with a question. "Shibetsu-senpai, why won't you admit it?" Upon hearing this name, Yushin remembered that it was the captain of the basketball team. Shibetsu Shuimo, a famous basketball player, confessed his feelings to Nanami but was rejected. He began to doubt his own identity and stood up. Yushin introduced himself as Nanami's boyfriend. Despite being impressed by Shuimo's immense presence, he still stood firm. "I felt that I needed to be brave for Nanami's sake." Noticing the attention from her classmates, Yushin suggested they go to the cafeteria to talk. While Yushin was eating, Shuimo asked if Nanami had made bento. He was about to ask for a piece, but before he could finish speaking, Yushin had eaten all the food. Shuimo's anger flared up, because he only wanted to taste a little bit. After finishing his meal, Yushin praised Nanami's cooking. Shuimo, angered by their exchange of affection, Shuimo challenges Yushin to a duel. If Shuimo wins, Yushin must give up Nanami. Yushin immediately refused, asserting that he had no intention of doing so. Shuimo, his voice choked with emotion, accused Yushin of shirking the challenge and sat down, questioning whether a coward like him was worthy of Nanami. He turned to Nanami and asked if she agreed. Nanami immediately replied that she disagreed and asked Shuimo not to call her by her first name, because only Yushin has the right to do that. Shuimo's anger flared up when he interpreted Nanami's words as her prioritizing Yushin over him. He called Yushin a coward for avoiding the challenge. Yushin countered, saying that using someone's girlfriend as a reward was wrong and that Nanami's feelings were the most important thing. He also pointed out that Shuimo had been rejected by her, so the match was unnecessary. Shuimo slammed his hand on the table, insisting that he didn't need to hear these words. Yushin remained silent and told Shuimo that there was no benefit for him in this situation. He declared that despite Shuimo's objections, he and Nanami would continue their relationship. He also criticized Shuimo for treating her like a possession. That's why he couldn't agree to the match. The conversation reached an impasse, and Nanami and Yushin prepared to leave. Shuimo interrupted again. Questioned Nanami why she chose Yushin. She asserted that he wasn't as attractive as she was. Nanami turned around and defended Yushin, asserting that he was far better and saying that she was tired of guys like him. Her words stunned Shuimo. She went on to reveal that Shuimo had looked at her breasts when he confessed his feelings, something Yushin would never do, which brought him to his knees. Yushin regretted not saying more. Nanami ignored Shuimo and told Yushin it was time to leave. Shuimo persisted, trying to grab her, but Yushin stopped him, warning that if he continues like that, Nanami will hate him. Shuimo started crying and begged Yushin to fight him. He believed that if he won, Nanami would understand. Yushin reluctantly agreed to the challenge. Ask him what kind of fight he wants. Shuimo, overjoyed, proposed a 3-point contest, with the winner being 10 turns. Yushin, despite not having much knowledge of basketball from manga, I agreed to the challenge because I knew I had no other choice. Nanami was surprised by his agreement and asked if he was okay with the fight. He reassured her, explaining that Shuimo's treatment of her as a possession angered him greatly. Worried about the possibility of failure by Yushin, Nanami blushed and decided to trust him. He agrees, participate in the match, but requested 3 preferential conditions because he was a newcomer. Shuimo, confident in his abilities, agreed, believing he couldn't possibly lose. Later, on the basketball court, Hatsumi and Ayumi arrived, drawn by the commotion in the practice room. They were curious to know what was happening. And when they saw Shuimo in his basketball uniform, the girls started screaming in surprise. After changing into his sportswear, Yushin caught Nanami's attention. She looked at him with a gentle, hopeful smile. Shuimo approached Nanami, confidently declaring that he was certain to win. However, Nanami ignored her and walked closer to Yushin. This gesture caused Shuimo to start crying in disappointment. Ayumi and Hatsumi comforted Senpai, telling him not to be sad. Then they approached Yushin again, asking about his appearance and whether he planned to join the basketball club. Yushin explained that he didn't. He had no intention of joining the basketball club. The girls admired his toned physique and complimented him, asking if he exercised regularly. Yushin, feeling embarrassed, admitted that he exercised occasionally. Nanami noticed the attention the girls were giving him. He frowned and teased them for staring at him too much. Her friend laughed, teasing Nanami that no one could ever steal Yushin away from her. Then they turned to Yushin and asked what was going on. He explained that Shuimo-senpai had challenged him to a basketball game, with Nanami as the reward. The girls were astonished by this revelation. Especially when he learned that you chose basketball as your challenge, Hatsumi curiously asked Yushin what his plan was to win the competition. Yushin replied that they had agreed that Shuimo would have 3 restrictions. Shuimo will begin by demonstrating his skills, showing Yushin 23-point shots. While shooting, Shuimo explains the 3-point shooting technique. He says the ball should be held close to the stomach or chest. Yushin asked if the ball shouldn't be held above the head. Shuimo explained that for a long throw, you don't need too much strength. The important thing is to keep your hips stable. Shuimo easily scored with each throw, showing Yushin the correct execution and technique. After 20 throws, Yushin felt exhausted just from watching. The rules of the game were set. Since this was Yushin's first attempt at a three-point shot, he only needs to make one successful throw to win. However, if Shuimo makes more than 8 throws, he will win the competition. Hatsumi and Ayumi discuss the challenge, realizing that tiring Shuimo out is a useful limitation, but may not be enough to guarantee Yushin victory. He acknowledged this and explained that the third limitation was extremely important. Regardless of the outcome of the match, Nanami will be the one to decide the winner. Hatsumi and Ayumi curiously asked if Shuimo agreed to the condition. Yushin replied that Shuimo had agreed, even saying, "Let her choose me," before giving his consent. This remark made the girls burst into laughter, finding it amusing that Shuimo believed Nanami would choose him if he won. Asai, Hatsumi remarked that without basketball, Shuimo was just a big idiot. Yushin shared that he would be sad if Nanami's decision were taken lightly. Therefore, he used the last resort to ensure that her decision would be valid. He feared that if Nanami chose Shuimo-senpai, everything would become meaningless. His gaze swept over Nanami, and he wondered if everything was all right. The game begins. Yushin holds the ball, preparing for the shot. Shuimo, full of confidence, boasted that if he won, Nanami would choose him. Yushin ignored the provocations, feeling anxious but determined to maintain a calm demeanor. He took a deep breath. Jump up and make the throw. He breathed a sigh of relief. Just need to score 1 point. That means we've won. Nanami, seeing Yushin score, she shrieked with joy, called him cool, and declared that she loved him. This sight angered Shuimo. Yushin now has more opportunities to score points. Distracted by Nanami's words, he fumbled and missed the next shot. Despite their efforts, he still didn't score any points, but still managed to remain calm. Meanwhile, Shuimo easily scored 8 points, creating a draw. Yushin was impressed with Shuimo's basketball skills, and he wondered what Nanami would think of him now. Before he could think any further, she ran and hugged Yushin and reaffirmed their choice. Her words completely shattered Shuimo. It felt like his world had crumbled. Yushin seized the opportunity and asked Shuimo if he acknowledged Nanami as his girlfriend. Shuimo started crying, overwhelmed with disappointment. When school ended, Yushin went home and recounted the story to his friends. Baron laughed at the details, surprised that Shuimo had accepted defeat. He wondered if the restrictions were fair, because if Nanami was the final decision-maker, then the competition seemed unnecessary. Yushin felt relieved that Shuimo had accepted defeat and grateful that Nanami's choice had been respected. Baron remarked that Nanami would not be swayed by Shuimo, as it was clear that both Yushin and Nanami loved each other. Yushin asked Baron for further explanation, admitting that he would be very happy if it were actually true. Peach expressed skepticism about Nanami's feelings for Yushin, asserting that she might just be toying with him. She said that girls often enjoy playing with boys' feelings, laughing at them behind their backs, while still having fun with their friends. Yushin appreciated her concern, but he firmly believed that his girlfriend wasn't as bad a person as she thought. Hearing that, Peach felt a little sad and whispered sorry before standing up. Yushin quickly tried to reassure her. "Thank you for your concern and say that you have calmed down a bit." He realized he might have been too complacent and decided he needed to make more effort to show his love for his girlfriend. His words made Peach's heart ache. She stood up, said that she was finished with her work for the day, and left, leaving Yushin with a jumble of emotions as he pondered their conversation. Baron asked Yushin what was wrong with Peach, and Yushin replied that he must have said something that upset her. Baron advised him to log out early because he had a date coming up. Yushin agreed and said that he needed to ask Nanami about it tomorrow at school as soon as he logged out. A message from Nanami's appearance. He opened it and read her question. "A kiss on the cheek?" Is this an acceptable reward for today? His face flushed, his heart overflowing with happiness as he read her message, but his heart was racing with excitement. Meanwhile, Nanami was enjoying a relaxing bath. She meticulously washed her body while thoughts of Yushin swirled in her head. In a moment of impulsiveness, she expressed her desire to see his reaction to her feelings. She loved the way he responded to her, and that thought made her smile. As she lathered the soap, she told herself that Shuimo could learn a few things from Yushin. Shuimo usually only listens to what he wants and never listens to others. That thought bothered her, especially since Shuimo had interrupted one of their rare moments together. She felt resentful that Shuimo had no right to judge Yushin, who had always treated her well. After washing her body, she soaked herself in the warm water of the bathtub. Her mind drifted towards Yushin. She compared him to Shuimo and realized that Yushin was actually much gentler and kinder. He genuinely cared about her, and that made her smile. However, an unpleasant thought suddenly flashed through her mind. She recalled Yushin's earlier reaction during their conversation and wondered if there was something else behind his words. As she relaxed in the water, memories of what Yushin had said at school came flooding back into her mind. She thought he must be embarrassed, and her heart raced at the thought of him. Just thinking about him made her feel warm inside, as if her heart was boiling with excitement. Suddenly, a mischievous idea flashed through her mind. Will he ask for a reward tomorrow? She imagined Yushin pulling her cheek, saying he didn't want a kiss on the cheek but somewhere else. Nanami blushed at the thought, stammering that things were happening too fast. She only wanted a kiss on the cheek. Just then, Saya's older sister opened the bathroom door. She teased her, saying that if Nanami liked cheeks so much, maybe she should pinch her cheeks. Nanami frantically asked her sister to go outside, and Saya agreed, closing the door behind them. When she was alone, Nanami pondered and couldn't stop smiling. Anyway, starting tomorrow, they will finally be able to be together without anyone bothering them. The next morning at school, Shuimo approached them again. He waved, complimented them, and expressed envy at their close relationship. Nanami felt annoyed because everything had been resolved yesterday. She told Shuimo to stay away from them and started walking. He gestured for Yushin to follow him. However, Yushin decided to stay and told Shuimo that he wanted to hear what he had to say. Shuimo thanked Yushin and reassured Nanami that he only came to discuss an important matter with Yushin, not to cause trouble. Nanami was surprised, but she realized that Shuimo seemed sincere. Yushin asked Shuimo what he wanted since their match was over. He found it strange that Shuimo had appeared at this time. However, Shuimo insisted that Yushin shouldn't be so distant. He explained that despite the disadvantages, Yushin won the match and proved himself worthy of Nanami. Shuimo admitted that he respected Yushin and wanted to be friends. This surprised both Nanami and Yushin. Yushin, still not understanding, whispered to her that he hadn't expected such a result. Shuimo, with an innocent expression, added that if they became friends, perhaps Nanami and he would become even closer. Hearing this suggestion, Nanami leaned closer to Yushin's ear and whispered. Her friend said that Shuimo was only good at basketball and lacked in many other areas. Nanami added. She went on to explain that his popularity stemmed primarily from his ability to appeal to women's protective instincts. Because they were so close, Nanami's whisper made Yushin tremble and her face flush. She suddenly realized her actions had been too bold. Yushin, still feeling embarrassed, asked if Shuimo was trying to appeal to her protective instincts in that way. Nanami immediately shook her head in denial, explaining that all Shuimo had done was glance at her breasts when he confessed his feelings, and that his gaze was truly inappropriate. Shuimo, having overheard their conversation, cleared his throat distinctly to attract their attention. He then made his offer again, asking Yushin once more if he would like to be his friend. Yushin agreed, but with one condition. He held Nanami's hand tightly and declared that he would never let her belong to Shuimo. Shuimo laughed at that, clearly amused. As Shuimo praised their harmony, then he suddenly turned his face to the window, as if accepting the situation. He admitted that it was time for him to find new love. Nanami was surprised by Shuimo's reaction. She didn't expect him to give up so easily, and this change made her reconsider her initial impression of him. She began to think that he might be a better person than she thought. After their conversation, Shuimo asked Yushin if he wanted to join his basketball club. Nanami was worried. "I'm happy that Yushin has been recognized, but I'm also afraid that if he joins the club, we'll have less time together." Yushin, sharing the same concerns, declined the invitation. He explained that he didn't want to reduce the time he spent with Nanami. Hearing this, Nanami felt happy and relieved because Yushin understood and shared her feelings. Shuimo acknowledged their decision, expressing disappointment but assuring Yushin that if he changed his mind, he could contact him anytime. Yushin thanked Shuimo-senpai, then he left, leaving them to enjoy their time together. Nanami turned around, relieved that only she and Yushin were left. Then she teased him, saying he'd probably prefer staying with Shuimo. Yushin apologized, assuring her that he had no intention of upsetting her. Nanami replied that she only wanted to be with him. Focus on gathering courage. Yushin reassured her that if anyone tried to abduct her, he would stop them. Nanami noticed his flushed face and teased him about his embarrassment. Yushin noticed her blushing cheeks and asked if she felt embarrassed too. Nanami admitted that she was genuinely embarrassed. She explained that it was because her boyfriend was saying such wonderful things. She added that no woman could fail to feel happy with such sincere words. Nanami took Yushin's hand and said it was a reward for his coolness yesterday and today. She added that they wouldn't be able to see each other tomorrow. Yushin recalled that Nanami and her friends were going to see a movie, so he told her to enjoy herself. However, she didn't seem very happy, feeling that Yushin might be looking forward to their time together. She expressed concern that he might feel lonely without her by his side. Yushin reassured her, saying that even if he missed her tomorrow, but he will patiently wait to spend time with her on Sundays. She was delighted with his reply, thanked him, and promised to send him many messages throughout the day. Both felt a warm anticipation for their next meeting. Yushin made a small mistake during his mission. Baron noticed this and asked what was wrong. Standing up, Yushin admitted his clumsiness. Tomorrow is his first date, and his mind is completely preoccupied with it. Hearing this, Peach advised him to be careful. Her words of encouragement surprised him, as this was the first time Peach had shown genuine concern for him. However, he felt uneasy as he listened to her continue. She said they would break his heart tomorrow, calling him boring and uncaring, among other criticisms. Baron quickly intervened, advising her to stop the negative comments immediately. Yushin started to sweat, feeling the weight of her words. He reassured everyone that everything was ready for the date, his voice determined but slightly nervous. Baron patted Yushin gently on the back, encouraging him not to worry too much about the game. They should both focus on enjoying their time together. This simple advice helped Yushin feel more at ease, reminding him that the date should be fun, even though he still had doubts in his heart. Baron offered a crucial piece of advice. If Yushin handled Nanami properly, his appeal would increase. He believed Yushin had already reached his peak of charm. But I still wonder if Yushin is truly happy just being with Nanami. He warned her to be cautious during the date, as Nanami might not feel the way he hoped. Then, Baron asked about the outfit Yushin planned to wear on this important day. Yushin realized he hadn't thought it through properly. Suddenly, a wave of unease washed over him. What should he wear for this date? The question lingered in his mind, adding to his anxiety as he prepared for the date. Yushin admitted that most of his wardrobe consisted of black clothes, with only a few comfortable pairs of trousers and jeans. Baron and Peach exchanged worried glances, realizing the seriousness of the situation. Baron suggested that Yushin take a picture of the outfit he planned to wear tomorrow and send it to Shuimo for advice. Yushin agreed and immediately called Shuimo-senpai, asking if he was free. Shuimo happily replied, very excited that Yushin was asking for his help again, and asked what he needed. And then Yushin asked Shuimo if he could see the outfit he planned to wear for their date tomorrow. Shuimo was surprised that Yushin was asking for fashion advice, but agreed to help, as he was currently off work. Yushin apologized, not wanting to bother anyone. But Shuimo reassured him that it was all right, even though he wasn't a fashion expert either. After receiving the photo, Shuimo's disappointment was obvious. He exclaimed, "Why are you dressed all in black? Everything is black, inside and out. You look like a serial killer or a ninja. Recognize all the clothes. All of Yushin's are the same. Show me more." They urged him to buy new things. Yushin went to the train station, mentally prepared for criticism, but still felt worse about his outfit after Shuimo's reaction. He felt relieved when Baron and Peach realized the problem and advised him to consult Shuimo. As he walked away, Yushin felt guilty. He felt like he had disappointed Baron and became even more aware of what others were thinking. Having no time, he hurried to the market. Hopefully, I can find something new before the date. Unfortunately, he faced a major disadvantage. As he rode the elevator up to the clothing section, he suddenly experienced a feeling of déjà vu. I thought I had just seen Nanami. However, Yushin quickly dismissed the feeling. That's due to imagination and the continued search for the perfect outfit. He started rummaging through his clothes. I thought buying each item separately would be cheaper. But surprisingly, he discovered that matching outfits were more expensive. Without a part-time job, spending this money was painful for him. But he knew he had to do it for the date. Regret washed over him for not having a part-time job, as he remembered that Nanami didn't work part-time either. He envisioned a wonderful future working with her, laughing together and sharing experiences. However, he quickly admitted that if they worked together, he would certainly make many mistakes trying to focus on her. As he continued searching for clothes, the reality of his financial situation gradually came to light. He needed to find a suitable outfit, but financial pressure was making him feel stressed. Finally, he selected a few items and went into the fitting room to try them on. Following Shuimo's advice, he kept the black skinny jeans and focused on finding a fresher-looking top. After changing into his new shirt, Yushin sent a photo to Shuimo-senpai to ask for his opinion. He agrees with this updated outfit. However, Yushin changed back into his original clothes. He couldn't help but think that a trip to the zoo would probably be more fun than the shopping spree. Anyway, with the clothes he'd bought, he was now ready for his date tomorrow. As Yushin stepped out of the locker room, he heard a familiar voice. To his surprise, it was the voices of Otofuke and Kamonai-san, who were dressed in eye-catching outfits that drew attention. He wondered why they were there, as they were supposed to be at the movies today. He saw Hatsumi trying to push away a group of boys who were trying to get acquainted with the girls. However, the boys persisted in inviting the girls to join them for some fun. Yushin stood there, observing everything that was happening. Yushin thought it was no surprise that they were attracting attention with such striking outfits. The boys persisted in their attempts to convince her, insisting that the girls' boyfriends wouldn't find out about the meeting. However, Hatsumi responded that it wasn't about getting caught. Despite the refusal, the boys continued to press, insisting that everything would be perfect since both groups had 3 people. Suddenly, Yushin remembered that if they were here, then Nanami must surely be somewhere else as well. He glanced over at them and spotted a girl standing nearby. His curiosity piqued. He wondered who she was, a feeling of both anticipation and uncertainty.